All right, our next talk, and also the one that got the best paper award, is GenAssist, making image generation accessible, and Mina will be here and give us the presentations. And also, before I forgot, Mina's also looking for internships, so talk to her.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the introduction. My voice is cracking a bit because we had a demo last night, but I'll try my best. Let me start. Hi everyone, I'm Mina, and today I'll share our work, GenAssist, a system for making image generation more accessible. This work was in collaboration with Ihao and Amy. Blind and low vision creators use images in slides, websites, videos, and social media. To get these images, creators might search for them, and if we search for an image of a young chef cooking, not all results are relevant. Here in the second image, we can see that the family is holding a baby and not cooking, but the alt text just says, family cooking dinner stock photo. They also create image, but most image authoring tools are not Screwmeter accessible. With text-to-image models, blind creators could describe image in text and generate high-fidelity images. Here, Midjourney created 4 images that actually showed a young chef cooking. To explore how blind creators would use these image generation tools, we conducted a formative study with 8 blind and low-vision creators who often use images. Participants completed 2 tasks, a guided task where they generated a cover image for a news article, and the freeform task where they generated with their own prompts. In both tasks, they asked questions about the generated images to decide the final image. First, when using text-to-image tools, creators found it difficult to come up with the prompt because they don't know how a typical news illustration would look like. After generating images, the first question that most creators asked was how the images are actually different from each other. Then creators wanted to assess whether the images actually followed the prompt, making sure they show a middle-aged woman and not a young girl here, and that she's actually looking at the screen, which is not the case for all 4 images here. Creators also wanted to access details not specified by the prompt. For example, they wanted to know what additional objects are in the image, the styles of images, whether they looked like a photo or looked colorful. And they also asked about the context, whether the generated images would look good for the purpose. While participants asked many questions about the images, it was difficult to remember and access all the information, especially with multiple images. To make image generation accessible, we need support in generating prompts, understanding and selecting images. We developed GenAssist, a system for accessible text-to-image generation. GenAssist provides rich visual information to help creators decide on final image, and let's look at each information in detail. Using GenAssist, creators can verify whether the generated images followed the prompt, and we first use GPT-4, a large language model, to generate visual questions that verify each part of the prompt. Then we use Split2, a visual question answering model, to generate answers to these images. Using GPT-4, we create the summary of the responses. And with this step, blind creators can notice that all images except the second image show parents in the image. As informed by the formative study, GenAssist also enables access to setting, subjects, emotion, and the likely use of each image, which are answered using a visual question answering model, and users can also access the objects in the image with an object detection model. Finally, when summarized using an LLM, users can notice that generated images all had different main ingredients, one image showing lots of vegetables and sausages in the next image. So we got all the content information, but style also matters when deciding on the image. And as suggested by the prompt guidelines, GenAssist describes the perspective, medium, lighting, as well as the distortion errors that occurred during the image generation. We use CLIP, a vision language model, to determine the similarity between each image in the dictionary of style expressions. And the images all show different styles from illustration, stock photo, vector art, and cartoon. We decided to present all this information in the table form because screen reader users can selectively access different types of visual information by reading a row, and also access individual image description by reading a column. Finally, all of this information is summarized into a comparison description that summarizes the similarities and differences between images, and per image description that provides detailed caption for each image. Here, images were all related to cooking with positive emotion, while they all showed different ingredients and utensils used. And now we might ask how good this actually is compared to human descriptions. So with 20 sets of images, we compared GenAssist to human describers and an existing captioning model. While it took 7 hours for human describers to describe all 20 sets, it took 1.5 hours for GenAssist to generate these descriptions. Here's the average number of correct details in the descriptions, and even compared to human describers, GenAssist identified more similarities and differences between images and was comparable for individual image descriptions. To explore how creators would actually use GenAssist, we conducted a user study with 12 blind and low vision creators. Here, they completed 2 tasks. In the interpretation task, they evaluated pre-generated images. In the generation task, they created images by coming up with their own prompts. And for the user study, we chose a baseline that mimics commonly used captioning tools available in commercial devices. This included default image description, an object detection results, and an interactive visual question answering. Compared to baseline, participants rated GenAssist to be more useful for understanding the differences between images. And as a result, most baseline users had to ask additional follow-up questions to understand the images, while only one participant using GenAssist came up with additional questions. During the user study, users could selectively access different types of visual information of interest, and they found that GenAssist descriptions were also helpful for learning new styles. With GenAssist, users could understand the capability of text-to-image models and adjusted their prompt. And in the future, GenAssist's ability to compare multiple images can be used for other scenarios, like comparing image search results. And we can provide more support in creating prompts by suggesting image styles or content relevant for the use context. And finally, we hope our work encourages generative AI models to broaden the type of content that people with disabilities can create. And with that, I'd like to end my talk. Thank you for listening. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks for the great work, Ahung Guo from University of Michigan. I'm wondering whether you thought about how a blind user can iterate, iteratively generate based on the results they get. And kind of somewhat related to that, I'm wondering whether some of the techniques that you propose could be used in the image editing scenario, where it's instead of generating new images, it's kind of like using this text and visual grounding approach to kind of edit existing photos.
Okay, to answer your first question about like iterating prompt and generating other images, some of the participants in our user study actually tried to like edit, change their prompt to generate another batch of images because they realized that when they just don't specify like the image style and just say like logo of something, and then it will come up with like illustrations and art, and so they could learn from those style expressions and then reused it for generating other styles of images. So we could see using this for iterations. And your second question was about editing images. We can see, I think few of our participants actually had experience of trying like image editing, but it was hard to like, because a lot of image editing tools requires like locating an object and like selecting it. So it was very hard for screen reader users to access it. So we can see potential of using this for generative edits with using text modalities as input. So yeah, I think it's a great direction for future work. Thanks.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Gregory Crosdale. I'm a PhD student at the University of Michigan. And I want to say, I really think this is an incredible work because you're addressing how do we have people who experience the world in different ways help communicate with each other. And when I was watching your presentation, one thing really stood out to me, and that was the description of the aesthetic style. And I was wondering if, like, through your user study, you saw that maybe people who didn't see the world visually saw that some of these words weren't quite as useful for them. So for example, like a stock photo. How is someone who's not seen a stock photo going to appreciate a stock photo? So I was wondering if you had any ideas to how we could make these words more accessible to people who haven't experienced them before.
Oh, that's a good question. So people who are born blind or don't remember like seeing a world, for them, like their prompts mostly contained only about the content, and they didn't often specify the styles. So they wanted to get suggestion of like which style works best for example, like video thumbnails, or they want to create blog posts and have an image for their blog post. So I think we can also have like suggestions for like which image style would look best for which context. So yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Excellent. And one tiny follow-up. I guess it's not a follow-up, it's not really related. But image generation is really what's popping off right now. But I'm wondering how you think this might change for other modalities. Can you think of any new design considerations you might have to?
Do you mean for like input modalities or like other like
I
videos?
mean, both. Like I'm thinking like audio generation or, you know, text generation for people who are nonverbal too.
Yeah, like I think audio generation would be also interesting for like creators who are deaf or have hard of hearing. And yeah, I think like this Gen AI has a lot of potential because like input is very like simple. Like you can just describe by text, or you can give audio as input and generate like image or videos. But what is less explored is like how to evaluate or help them understand the output, intermediate or like final outputs. So I believe there are a lot of potentials for exploring those areas. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the great question.
Hi, Yu from UC San Diego, and congratulations. I have a quick question. Maybe it's a little bit similar to Professor Guo's question, because since we have like this such detailed and accessible assistant, so how can you, have you thought about how can we utilize this detailed information across different images to support a regeneration process and merging, like for example, merging different details across different images to generate a more desirable images for the users?
Yeah, I think like because often like text-to-image models don't really like, sometimes it cannot follow all the details specified in the prompt. Like some people liked these details from image 1 and like these details from image 2. They also wanted to like merge somehow, but they didn't know how to like further edit or how to like adjust the prompt so that text-to-image models like would best understand the prompt. So I think we need more support in like suggesting like which prompt works best with the image generation tools.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, sneak in a quick question. Really cool talk. I was curious, while doing user studies, did you feel or did it seem like the process assisted the creativity process of people who are vision or who are blind or low vision? Or did it, in some sense, did it offer new forms of creativity, or did it go counter to their established creative process?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay.
Yeah.
In short, did the tool allow for new creative practices? Like, hey, I can finally create images using like by being creative with text. or did the process kind of go against what they are usually used to?
Oh, that's a good question. I think like while people tried creating images by themselves, because those tools are mostly not accessible with screen readers, they ended up mostly creating like very simple low fidelity images with just like squares and circles. But here they liked that they could actually create high fidelity images like stock photo looking images or like illustrations. And also they felt like they had more agency and independence because they didn't need to ask sighted people's help in describing the results or helping them creating the image results. So they felt like they were actually the creator of the images.
So you feel they felt more agency. Perfect. Thank you very much for the great talk.
Thank you.